Good morning, friends. Happy midweek. I know it's Thursday. It's a little bit different than it's been in past weeks. But hey, nonetheless, we are here and we're doing midweek. So if you're watching wherever you are, I hope this video finds you doing well. I hope that you're encouraged by this message. And if you're just having an off week, I just want to say, hang in there. It's going to be better. When you woke up this morning, you were giving a new mercy. As the sun comes up, the Bible promises that God gives us a new mercy every single day. And so for that, I am extremely grateful. So if you've been just having kind of a rough week, a crummy week, just hang in there. God loves you. There's people in your corner who are rooting for you, and we're here for you. So just know that today is a new day. It's a new way to get started. And speaking of that, this has kind of been a trend that we've been on since the new year, is just this whole idea of being a new you, a better you. And maybe if you're like me, you're striving every day just to be better than you were yesterday. And so I don't know what that looks like for you, but I just hope that you guys are doing the best you can and that you're hanging in there. And so today we're going to be kind of heating it up a little bit. We're going to be talking about some things that the church doesn't really address much anymore, but yet God feels so strongly about it. And you may hear sermons on this topic. Of course, every preacher is going to be addressing it to some degree, but we've lost the intensity behind it. We don't talk about it in small groups anymore, and it's one of these things where the world has gone this way and the church is slowly starting to follow. And I'm going to explain myself as we go on with this video. But what I'm talking about this morning is sin, right? It's sin. And my fear is that Christians don't look at sin nearly as severely as God does. I mean, you see this trend throughout the entire Bible of how God is addressing sin, how God is dealing with sin, and it's something that we overlook all the time. I mean, we always love the feel-good parts of the Bible, right? But when we start looking at the things that may talk to us a little bit deeper, that may step on our toes, we tend to just kind of skip through those chapters a little bit, don't we? And if we're in a sermon and we hear the preacher talk about a specific sin that we're dealing with, all of a sudden we kind of just shut down a little bit, or we may even be bold enough to say, you know what, I don't know if I want to go to that church for a few weeks. I feel a little awkward. And that's just the nature of where we are. And our culture is, we've been designed and programmed that everything we do has to feel good. And God, all throughout the Bible, is just trying to warn us about the severity of what happens with sin. Right? And so let's talk about a few stories in the Bible where we see this played out. The first one comes all the way back to Adam and Eve. We know that sin, but then their children, Cain and Abel, right? You know that story comes from Genesis 4. Abel presented an offering that was acceptable. Cain did not. And so Cain was a little bit discouraged. He was downcast, and God found him and said, listen, Cain, why are you so downcast? He says, if you would have done what was right, would you have not been accepted? And if you don't do what is right, then sin is not crouching at your door. And its desire, this is what God says to Cain, its desire is to have you. Or in some translations, it says to condemn you, which means to literally oppose you. Like this desire that is appealing to you is actually there to oppose you. It looks good in the surface. It feels good in the surface. But at the end of the day, it is there to literally destroy you. And the best example I could give is an apple, right? I wish I would have brought one this morning. It would have been a good breakfast for one, but it would also show a great symbolism of what this is talking about, right? An apple in itself looks delicious, right? Now picture me holding a nice, red, beautiful apple, and it's got no defects on it. There's no holes in it. It is the perfect, crispy, beautiful red apple, right? And it looks good. I mean, if you like apples, of course. But put this in the picture of whatever sin is in your life. And this apple looks good. It looks refreshing. It appeals to you. So you grab it and you take a bite, right? And then you realize that bite just doesn't taste very good. And over the course of, sometimes it could take minutes. Sometimes it could take, an hour. But after you take bites, all of a sudden oxygen hits that apple and it starts to look really brown and nasty towards the parts where it was bitten at, right? So if I were to have an apple that had 2 or 3 big bites out of it and the oxidation started to occur, and I'm holding it on this side, it looks like a beautiful fresh apple, and I say, do you want that? And you say, well, of course I do. And then I turn it around and you see all that brown, gunky, oxidated apple. Chances are your appetite starts to diminish. It no longer looks appealing. And that's exactly what sin does to us. That's what God is trying to explain to Cain, is that sin looks good. It's crouching at your door. It is appealing to you. It is honing in on your appetite. But if you start taking bites of this, its desire is to consume you to the point where your appetite says no more, but now it's entangled into your life, right? It's like an eagle trying to hold a fish flying over the ocean or the river or the lake, and it's just trying to get to the shore, but yet it can't drop the fish because the talons are so entangled into the sin, into the fish itself, that it just weighs you down. And you try to let go, but the more you let go, the more entangled it's becoming. Does that sound a little bit familiar about the sin in your life? And the problem that I see Christians facing is that we are walking in sin, and as more as the culture makes sin normal, the more we accept it within the church, which is why we aren't talking about it anymore. There are sins now that Christians are just openly talking about that don't even recognize that this is a problem in their life. And they're just walking through it, and they're just living life as if it's normal, right? It's just normal. That's what people do. That's what we do. So we start justifying it. We say pornography is fine because everybody's doing it. In fact, they talk about sex all the time. So I can go ahead and live with my girlfriend or boyfriend before I get married. We could start having sex. We could start living a life like this that was intended for marriage. That's how God designed it to be. As something that was made to be beautiful has now been corrupted by the world, and the church doesn't address that because it's uncomfortable for many people, right? We don't want to lose anybody, so we'll avoid those topics, but yet we find ourselves talking about the sins that people aren't struggling with in our church, right? It's okay to talk about the sins we don't struggle with, but as soon as we start to mention things that we do struggle with, all of a sudden red flags start coming up, right? All of a sudden we start to feel a little bit uncomfortable. In fact, if we were sitting in a small group and I asked all of you to share with us your deepest, darkest sin, what would you say? My guess is you probably wouldn't talk about it. Why? Because we don't want people to look at us as broken people. We don't want people to see our imperfections, especially the ones that we're really battling within. And it gets hard to talk about, right? And so we stay silent because we're afraid of what all these outside people are going to view us as. We're afraid about the opinions of others. And Jesus very clearly talks about how the church needs to be here for people who are struggling. That's what this place is about. It's a place for sick people, for sinners, those who need help. And so if you're struggling and you're feeling depressed and guilty and shameful of the things that you've done in your life, I just want to invite you to know this, that we are here to talk about it. We're not going to condemn you. We're not going to make you feel like you're not loved or that you're not welcome here. We want you to know that you are accepted first and foremost by God the Almighty, but also by us as a church. And we just want to walk and share life with you, because living in this sin is only causing destruction in your life. Think about it. Has your sin affected you more than you thought it would? Has it affected your family more than you thought it would? Chances are that's true because you're walking through it by yourself. And we just want to invite you to walk with us. That we're not here to judge you. We're not here to condemn you. We are here to share life with you, right? And then in that process of sharing life, we want to help you grow in your relationship with Jesus and let him be the one who can help change you, because ultimately he's the one who made you. So he has the power to change you if you accept that invitation. So we're not here to judge you. We're just here to walk with you. So if you're feeling guilty and shameful, just know this: you're in good company, because I too am right there. There are sins that are in my corner. There are sins that are deeply embedded into my life that I just have a hard time talking about because it is embarrassing. It's a hard struggle. And I don't want people to know that I'm a broken person too. And so when we share life together, all of a sudden we realize we've got common ground in this thing. We've got the same enemy who is trying to attack us, and we can come together and be the community, which is what the church has been designed to do. And Jesus takes it a step further in how he talks about dealing with sin. And friends, I want to close you with this. It's a verse from Revelation. We're going through it in our small group. And I just want to read this part. It comes from Revelation 18. So it's a little preview of what's coming this Sunday for our young adult small group. But it's a little preview of what's happening. And to give you a little context, we get introduced to this harlot in Revelation, right? And she represents false religion. And she's this person who has enticed the kings, right? I mean, that's what prostitutes do. They seduce you. And so she has seduced the government. She's seduced the kingdoms and things around, and they're basically eating out of the palm of her hand, right? And so then we get to this verse in chapter 18 that says this. It comes from verse 4. It says, "Then I heard a voice from heaven say, 'Come out of her, my people, so that you will not share in her sin, so that you will not receive any of her plagues. For her sins are piled up to heaven, and God has remembered her crimes. Give back to her as she is given. Pay her back double for what she has done.'" Right? So what this is this is a very, very clear wake-up call to the Christians, where he says, listen, if you are lying with this harlot, if you are in bed with this person, this prostitute, she is only going to lead you into destruction, because I remember her sin, and where she's going is not a place that you want to be a part of. And so, church, this is a wake-up call. This is the severity of sin that is being talked about here, where God is literally telling you, hey, it's time for you to get out of bed and get ready to go. Right? It's time for you to stop living in this secret, stop living in this world with this person who is only trying to seduce you, trying to give you that appetite, to give you that apple. It's time to wake up and start taking sin seriously. And friends, I just want to say this one more time before we go. Some of us, we already have sin scheduled on our calendar for the future. Right? We've already got big plans for this weekend where we know we're going to get seduced. We know that we're going to be tempted, and we know that our willpower is very short, very weak, and we are willfully knowing that we're about to go into an area that we don't need to be a part of, but yet it's still already on our calendar. Sin has been scheduled into our future. And I just want to warn you right now, it's not too late to get out of bed with that harlot. It's not too late to step up and say, you know what, I'm done with this. Like, this has only been dragging me down. It's causing chaos in my life and my family, and I don't want to be a part of it anymore. And friends, I'm right there with you. The battle is very real. The appetite is so strong for sin, but I want to let you know that there is hope for you. His name is Jesus, and we are willing to walk with you through these struggles. And I may share some of the struggles that I'm going through, because that's what a community of believers do. We encourage one another to keep fighting the good fight, to keep pressing on. And if you're looking to be a better person, if you're looking to have a new year, a new you, a better you today than you did yesterday, that may be a cause of dealing with your sin. In order for you to be better may be for you to finally say, I'm done giving in to the temptations that have been surrounding my life all this time. I am done willfully giving in. And you may fail. You may have struggles from now on. But the point is you're trying and striving to fight through it. You're striving, and God's going to see your heart. He's going to see your efforts. And so, friends, we invite you to walk with us as we are dealing with our own sin, as we are struggling with ourselves and the temptations surrounding us, because everybody's different. Every appetite is different. But when we walk together, we can conquer so much more than when we try to do it by ourselves. And let's just walk with the Lord, who can change the person that we are. Friends, have a great week, and I just pray that you keep fighting that good fight and know that we're here anytime that you need us. Have a good week.